Good afternoon. I am Miss Kim with Miss Kim's Tarot and Tea Room.com. It is Monday, March the 2nd, 2026. I am winging it today because my apartment flooded out. And as you can see, I have my ephemeris here, and I'm going to do the In the Skies 2026 for March. And I'm a day late because my apartment flooded out and everything in my house is in disarray, including me. So the dialed up version, y'all can forget about it. Right now, my main objective is to get this information out because, as you can tell, especially in the US and in a few other countries, it is a giant shitstorm. And I really feel it's important to help you navigate some of this astrological stuff that we're having. So today, like I said, is the 2nd, and I am looking where the sun is, which is 11 degrees in Pisces, and it's going to be in Pisces until the 20th of March. So with that being said, where the sun shines, its energy is going to be on feelings. It's going to be on sensitivity. It's going to be on psychic development. It's going to be on the subconscious. There's my little dog. It's going to be on the intuition that we have to follow it, hopefully. And also, it's going to be kind of have a little side note here of how it can affect us negatively. Old issues with addiction, whether that be food addiction, sex addiction, alcohol, you name it, whatever it is, those little things can come back and there can be relapses of behaviors that you kind of wish that you didn't have. But it also will set the tone for how you can not have those issues in the future by shedding a light on that. And those things will be available for you to see until the 20th of March. And the other thing here, we have our Mercury that's in retrograde in Pisces starting out at 21 degrees. And it's going to remain retrograde until the 21st of March, which is a Saturday. And once again, the things that we do to undo ourselves. Secret enemies also is the ruler under this as well. So we might have people that we have no clue that are our enemies, but they might be brought out into the surface, or old enemies could be acting up. Also, strange dreams. So it's really important to write those dreams down and interpret those dreams. And remember, in a dream, everything kind of applies to you in some way. Sometimes they're warnings, sometimes they're asking you, are you going to go to this pattern again? So just pay attention to your dreams. So we have Venus in Pisces. So Sun, Mercury, Venus in Pisces until the 7th of March. And then, this is a really good time for feelings to get them out in the open. It's a really good time for people who are artistic. I always say that because if you guys didn't know, I love to do art. And so also for writers, poetry, anything like that. And also to show people how you love them. You know, it's not so much to talk about it, feeling, to allow the feeling of love to show. And so we've only got that Venus that's going to be remaining until Saturday, and then it goes into Aries. I'm not even going to talk about that yet because I want to get through what we have at the beginning of the month. We've got Mars in Aquarius just until the 3rd. So, with that being said, drive, pushing forward with things having to do with groups, things having to do with humanitarian efforts, things having to do with social hierarchy. It also has to do with technology. So, a drive toward AI, perhaps, but we're going to have some second thoughts about some things. Remember, during a Mercury retrograde, everything has to be done and sometimes redone. So, say for instance, you go to the store and you realize that you went too early, that it's not open, and you have to go to that store. So, you're going to turn back around, and when it opens at whatever time, you're going to go back to do what you have to do with your business. So, sometimes things have to be done more than twice, not just twice, but sometimes more than twice. This time requires a lot of patience on your part. So, Jupiter is in Cancer up until the 11th of March. So, this is a time to expand things having to do with home, with the way you're doing things at home. You might need to be rethinking and doing revisions in your home. Could be something having to do with water in your home. So I already had that. Did not like. I give it a thumbs down. Saturn will be in Aries the whole month, and we're basically at 1 degree. Saturn's going to be in Aries for a very long time. So let's talk about that. Saturn is what kind of time we're having. That's what the representation of it is. Aries is the god of war. So there is one positive thing, because let me tell you something. Saturn takes 2.5 years to go through a sign. So we're talking close to 2028. Okay. So let's talk about this. But with the US doing what they do or did, when the time that they actually executed what they did with Iran, I don't even like to say the words. The timing could go just to the exact of when Mercury is retrograde for 21 days. The same thing happened in Iraq, and it was basically a very short-lived war. Because anything that's undertaken during a Mercury retrograde sometimes causes a lot of confusion and misinformation, and it certainly has to be revisited again. Sometimes things don't get done properly, or it certainly can create more chaos than it would have to. So, but there's a positive. It could only last for 21 days, or it could be less than that. But there's always confusion and misinformation around it. Do not believe anything that you hear, and only half of what you see, if that, unless you are personally witnessing what you are supposed to be seeing. Unless you are physically in that location or anything with the news, do not believe what you see at surface value. There's always something else going on under the scene. Okay. And I'll talk a little bit more about Saturn as we go along. I'm keeping track of the time. Uranus in Taurus is definitely going to create upheaval in the markets. It's going to be Uranus and Taurus up until we have a little reprieve on the 27th of April. So that instability with things having to do with possessions and markets and real estate will switch over. But then we're going to have it dealing with communication. So there could be unstable communications at that time. And that's going to be closer toward the end of April. So let's not get too far ahead of ourselves, but just know there's still going to be some financial instability up until around the 26th of April. I do not recommend investing money at this time in anything that is more unstable. And Neptune is in Aries. It's going to be there for quite some time. I'm looking through the ephemeris. You can see me flipping these pages, and we're going past 2029 at this point. We're going past 2030. So we're talking about a long time. Neptune is always about being idealistic, or it's about being in denial. You just are not seeing things. If you imagine going to the ocean, jumping in the water, and opening your eyes and trying to see what's down there, we both know that you are not going to see clearly unless you're wearing a mask around your eyes to look at the ocean. But if you open your eyes without any aid or equipment, you're not going to see things clearly. And that's basically what's happening. We are not going to see things clearly without a great deal of effort and the right equipment. Put that in your subconscious mind where my little bottle is. Because the more you rely on your third eye and your heart chakra and all your psychic centers to guide you, the better off that you are. It may not make any sense, but it will make sense later on. Pluto is in Aquarius, and that means we are driven for technology. And this is such a long time. We're talking 20 years. I'm looking past 2038, 2039, 2041. Technology is something that we are going to be working with, but we're also going to be working toward what is humanitarian for all populations that are here. What is inclusive for everything that is here? Those are questions. Is it appropriate for humanity? So at the beginning stages at 0, right now we're at 4, is the extreme upheaval. And as we get further along, closer to 15 degrees, we're only at 4, and May we'll only be at 5, and then retrograde back to 4. This shows the atrocities that have been committed in the name of being evolved, which is complete BS. I'm still mad about the stuff that's coming out right now, so you'll have to overlook me. But the first thing that it does is bring to surface the ugly. Pluto is all about bringing up the ugly, cleaning it out, and then clearing the way for what is supposed to be there and putting it in place. We got a lot of ugly coming up right now. So it's very important to shine the light that you have inside of you and put that energy out into the universe. Okay, so when we have the shift back with the sun in Aries, issues with muscles, issues with the head, issues having to do with the face, issues having to do with war. I hate to mix those all up, but Aries is the god of war. And unfortunately, that's something that we're going to deal with. From the 21st until the end of this month, that's going to be in focus, or things that may be problem solving with war. And the other thing is, the whole time that Mercury's retrograde, when it finally goes direct, which will be, around the 20th of March, we still will have the shadow that goes over for about 2 weeks that will still continue to create confusion. Please don't sign anything that requires a long-term commitment. Please don't move during this time, and don't do your hair. That's why I'm wearing this thing. I will not touch my hair during a Mercury retrograde because the color will turn a different color. If you go to get a haircut, you think you're getting a trim. The next thing you know, you look like a squirrel. Just don't. Just telling you. Now we really need to be careful with a Venus going into Aries on the 7th up until the end of the month, because up until the 30th, because we might be too impulsive with the people that we choose to get connected with unless we want a short-term relationship. You don't want to get involved in a relationship between the time that Mercury is retrograde because it won't be long standing. Don't be surprised if old lovers come back, old marital partners, just old. Sometimes that's the question of asking, am I still this gullible to put up with this? Or do we have unfinished business and that maybe we judge things differently? Personally, I find it as an A instead of a B. So Mars is going to go in Pisces on the 3rd and stay there the whole month. Wonderful. But know this, that water could be an issue. So if you're having any issues with water, pay attention, because that might be something that we're driven towards of what's going on with our water. Is it safe? The question is, and me defending my feelings. Mars is about being assertive where our drive is. Let's put this energy into finding out what's going on under the surface, the deep part of our feelings. And with Jupiter in Cancer, our mothers might be important at this time, our home life. It's going to be retrograde for the first 10 days, so things might kind of go awry. If I could turn this camera around and you could see what's over here, you would say, oh Lord, Kim, I get it. And I am a water sign, and of course my 4th house is ruled by Cancer, so guess who gets to have a flood in their house? So I'm going to do the cleanup today and make things pretty like, as me and my daughter say. But we'll see how well that goes, because one thing that happens during this time are a lot of distractions and disruptions. So be warned, this is not going to be the most fabulous month you've probably ever had in your life. It's very important that you take care while you travel. Give yourself extra time to get from point A to point B. Make sure that you clarify with the other person that you're talking to what you're really trying to say, because make them repeat back to you what they heard to make sure that everybody's on the right page. And remember, most of the time when you go to do something, you're going to do it more than once. I would not put anything in writing. I would not put my signature on the dotted line unless you absolutely had to. This is the time that I can renew my lease. Do you think I'm going to do that? Not only no, but hell no. So people might be a little bit more excitable and act out of character, or they're acting in character, and this is your first view of what it is. So just be aware of that. I'm going to get this out. This is not usually how I do things, but sometimes you just got to do things on the fly. And excuse the everywhere stuff, and the beauty routine is not as usual, but this is who I am, and I hope that you have a wonderful month. If you need to reach me, I am Miss Kim at Miss Kim's Tarot and Tea Room. That's MS, Kim with an S, tarotandtearoom.com. You can always text me if you need to, and that information will be available. So I hope you have a great month, and I will talk to you later. Bye.